Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi there.
Hi, thank you for joining us, Mr. BRYON. I'm just going to go over the rules once again, which you're probably familiar with, but we've got 9 questions. Each candidate is given 3 minutes to respond to each question. And you have a final 3 minutes, so 30 minutes in total, but you have a final 3 minutes after you're done with the questions to go back and supplement anything that you might have missed or want to add on the questions, or give us a final statement. We're bringing candidates in individually, sequestering the non-interviewees, and we'd ask that you leave following the interview conclusion. Do you have any questions about any of that?
No, not at this time, thanks.
All right. 3 of our board members are going to be asking questions because some of us are under the weather tonight, or otherwise occupied.
Briefly describe your commitment to public education and our local school district.
Well, I think I have a deep and personal commitment to public education. We talk a lot about safety nets like Medicare and Social Security, but I think public education too often gets left out of that discussion.
Can you move the microphone closer to you,
Sure.
please?
Public education is a social safety net, and it's also a lot more than that. It's kind of like at its best, it's like a social trampoline. I'm passionate about public education because I'm a product of it. From K to 12, I attended schools in the LAUSD, the LA Unified School District, and I owe a substantial amount of who I am to that experience. You know, at the time, for me at least, that was the only option. Public education was the only option. It was the only thing that my parents could afford. There was never even a discussion of private school. And I was fortunate to attend a school in that district's magnet program where, as an elementary school student, I was exposed to ancient Greek mythology and the United Nations, and I had an opportunity to learn about computers. I had a fantastic public education experience. And that got more important moving into my life because I was in a situation where my home life got more and more complicated. My parents divorced when I was 10. For a period of time, I lived with my father. For a period of time, I lived with my mother and my 2 siblings. For a period of time, I lived in sort of a unofficial, unsanctioned foster care situation. And during that time, school became a really important thing to me. It became the center of my life. It was the place I got 2 meals a day. It was the place that, in a way, became home because it was the place I went to every day, where I saw my friends, where I was challenged. And I'm really fortunate to in a way, have been saved by that safety net. I had teachers who had the intuition to know that things weren't right and to open up opportunities for me. I had a high school counselor, Ms. Barnhart, who was there to explain the roadmap to college and to help negotiate fee waivers for the SAT and college applications. So I'm very fortunate to have had that experience. And it breaks my heart to know that that's an outlier, that most students don't have that kind of experience. I don't understand why we don't pay teachers more. I don't know why they receive a fraction of what we pay other public employees. And I don't understand why teachers are expected to use their own funds to buy classroom supplies. And I think unless we take action and advocate for our public schools, things are going to continue to get worse. So I'm applying for this position because I think we have an opportunity to ensure that at least all children of the district continue to receive access to public education, quality public education. And yeah, as you asked about my commitment to the local school district, as to my commitment to Emeryville, you know, my wife and I moved here in 2010. We've raised 2 kids here. I have a 5-year-old that's a current kindergartner here at Annie Yates. I have a 3-year-old who we intend to enroll at Annie Yates when the time comes. So as far as commitment, I think I've kind of put my family where my mouth is in making a commitment to Emeryville.
Thank you.
Our question number 2, please share any background information that you feel prepares you for a position as a school board member, for example, education, work experience, etc.
Sure. So first of all, I am a parent, and I think as a parent of a student in the district, I think this gives me a little bit of insight and access that will be helpful in being a school board member. I'm at ECCL several times a week. It doesn't mean I don't get lost every single time I'm here, but I'm here several times a week just to on account of my son. I meet other parents and kids and teachers when I sit with him in the morning as he eats breakfast here in the cafeteria. And again, when I pick him up from the rec at the end of the day. I think this experience will help me serve the interests of the students and parents on the board, just the fact that I'm here. As to my work experience, I think my legal training, I'm a lawyer, I think that'll come in handy. I know you've got a wheelbarrow full of lawyers who are, have applied for this position, so I'm not going to waste your time discussing how I can read contracts and understand the issues of liability. Instead, I'd like to talk about my first career out of college, which was in higher education, public relations, and marketing. I worked in the public affairs office of Claremont McKenna College as the school's publications editor. I oversaw publication of the school's glossy alumni magazine, material on the school's website, recruitment materials. And after 2 years there, I moved over to the University of Southern California, where I did a very similar thing for another 5 years. And Claremont McKenna, University of Southern California, these are great schools, and they recognize the importance of communicating their great qualities to the world. They understand that there's a virtuous cycle at play where when prospective teachers and students and donors learn about a school's achievements, they're more likely to join that school and contribute to its future achievements. And I think this is important for the Emory Unified School District, because I think one of the things that it faces is kind of a marketing problem. I think there's a certain reputation that it needs to be able to overcome. And I don't think that's the answer to everything, but I do think that's something that will help. And I think we need to do a good job, a better job, of telling the world about all the great things we're doing and all the improvements that we've made. I think if we don't do that, we're kind of moving into the future with one hand tied behind our back.
Okay. Please describe your commitment to ensuring the board functions well and share any prior experience on working on boards or teams that you might have.
Sure. Now, so as the editor of the alumni magazine at Claremont McKenna College, I reported to an editorial board. And much later, after I started my legal education, I served on the editorial board of the California Law Review, which is UC Berkeley's flagship law journal. I've been involved in several committees at my law firm, and I'm active in some nonprofit organizations. And I think through this, I've learned a few things that I think will inform my experience on the board. One, I think it's important to be prepared. When you aren't prepared, you waste your colleagues' time, and you make ill-informed decisions. Two, it's important to listen to others. I think when you're prepared and you're actively listening, it's much easier to resolve disagreements by actually pinpointing where the disagreement is. Three, I think it's important to have good data, and I think it's important to understand the data and be able to trust in it. And fourth, I think when you join an organization with a history and with long-range goals, you have to understand your place in that history. I've been part of situations where there's a major turnover in a board or a team, and there's usually this influx of enthusiasm and energy, which is great. But what often comes with that is this natural inclination to channel that energy into new priorities and new programs and new initiatives to sort of leave your mark. And I think when there's regular turnover, I think that leads to a lot of half-finished, abandoned projects and wasted energy and sometimes mission creep. So to avoid this, I think you have to view time and energy as assets and really understand the investments of energy and time that your predecessors have made. I think rather than making your mark by ignoring or burning down the achievements of your predecessors, you really have to build on those achievements. And I think that's how you make your mark. And finally, this is kind of connected to my last point, but I think it's critical to leave a good record for whoever's going to come next. I think you don't want the people down the road to have to reinvent the wheel. So those are some of my thoughts.
How does the board's role differ from that of the superintendent?
Now, I don't know the finer details,
Somebody
but
get-
I think in a broad sense, the school board governs and the superintendent manages.
Can I just ask you to hold off a second?
Yeah, sure.
Did we hit pause
Oh,
on
no
the
problem.
time?
My answer to this one is not very long, so I don't mind.
Well,
have
you
you-
you can
I'll
have
go
an
ahead and
extra
I'll wait.
15 or 20
Yes.
seconds if needed.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Excuse me.
So my understanding is the school board governs and the superintendent manages. And I think the board's role is to represent the interests of students and parents and teachers and all Emeryville residents, and to oversee the superintendent and to ensure the district is meeting those interests. My understanding is the superintendent serves as the board's chief advisor and as the district's educational leader, and is the person who manages the district's day-to-day affairs and ensures that the board is informed about district operations and activities.
Question number 5. With the district's 4 goals in mind, I believe you have a copy there. What do you see as the strengths of the Emory Unified School District?
Well, I think with ECCL, we have a state-of-the-art facility that is likely to be the envy of other districts in the area. And this isn't a reliable metric, but I'm here all the time, and I tend to see really happy, exuberant kids. I think this is a good facility for them. I think it's good for their self-esteem. It's nice to be in a sort of state-of-the-art environment like this. I think it's really valuable to have on-site health care for kids. I think it's also really valuable to have the rec on the same facility. My son is here from 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes a little earlier, until sometimes as late as 5:30. But I think it's a great sort of unified facility for all that stuff. I think I'm really impressed by the teachers that I've met so far. I'm impressed by their willingness to engage and move forward with this relatively new Common Core curriculum that looks completely foreign to me. I mean, if not alien to me. I can imagine it was probably foreign to them at a point too. But I really appreciate the fact that we've got a faculty here that is really adopting and working with these new things and seems to be willing to learn how to teach in new and exciting ways. I also see great instruction and use of technology in my son's class. There's this app that Mr. Pippin uses. It's called Class Dojo. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but it's amazing. It's this app that's on my phone. I can go to it. I get emails from Mr. Pippin on it when he needs supplies, when something's going on. I can check in and I can see where my son is in terms of if he's behaving, whether he's learning. Looks like today he got 9 positives and only 1 negative for being off task. And I think that's really made it easier for me to engage as a parent. I don't know if it works for everyone. It might not. But I think I do see some really good use of technology. I see some great teachers, and I think we've got a great facility. And I think all of that goes to, I mean, it goes to the first two goals, and I think it also goes to the third goal as well. And in terms of trying to
Let me just make sure you're speaking very close to the mic.
oh, sure.
So we can-
Is it too loud?
No, you're a little soft.
Okay. And I think we're starting to see some of the synergies that I suspect the sort of architects of ECCL wanted to see. I saw some of that on election day. You know, this was a polling place, so my wife and I show up here when we drop off the kids, and we go and we vote. And then at the end of the day, you know, when I picked up my son, gosh, this shouldn't be as, it's difficult to talk about election day. You know, I picked him up and he said, I voted too. I voted for Hillary Clinton and I voted to save the environment. And I started to talk with him and I realized that the third grade class had kind of put together a sort of mock voting exercise that, you know, they not only did they had the, you know, voting booths, but they did exit polling. I think there's a mural over in one of the other classrooms that shows all the results. But I think you do see just the seeds of that sort of synergy and that sort of, you know, community building, the idea that this really could be, you know, the heart of the community here in Emeryville.
All right. With the district's 4 goals in mind, what do you see as the areas most needing improvement in the Emory Unified School District?
Well, I think the biggest area of improvement is, I think we need to solve the problem of attrition at the middle school and high school level, and overcoming our reputation as a district that has a fantastic elementary school and a second-rate secondary instruction institution. Let me share my sort of introduction to Emeryville, which happened when I moved here in 2010 with my wife. We were looking at a place to live. We were talking to the landlord, and who was very eager to you know, interest us in Emeryville. I knew about Berkeley. I knew about Oakland. Didn't really know a whole lot about Emeryville. And she said, you know, it's a great place to live. You've got Arizmendi down the street. You've got Pixar right over there. You've got Bay Street that's not too far away. And then, you know, there's Anna Yates is a fantastic elementary school, a public elementary school. And after Anna Yates, well, there's, you know, plenty of charter schools, or, you know, you'll be fine, don't worry. But that was the introduction. Was that it seems like the story that we need to overcome as a city and as a district is that it's a substandard education as the grades get higher. We're never going to be a full-service community school if we drop out of students' lives early on. I think we have to solve this problem. I don't know how. I think it's, frankly, a little bit of a chicken and egg problem. If we, you know, we have to kind of change the public perspective of the school, but to do that, we have to change the school. So I think it's a difficult problem. I think it's one that we have to actually be interested in solving. So I think that's sort of my answer to that question.
Of the district's 4 goals, are there any that you do not support? Do you have any additional goals you think should be considered?
I think the goals are great, and I agree with them. But if I were to pick nits, I'd probably start with a third goal, and the integration of innovative technology to foster global awareness communications. I love technology. I think it's great. I you know, mentioned the Class Dojo app that I like, but I'm wary of technology for technology's sake. I think you know, innovative technology is particularly expensive. If it's new, if it's cutting edge, you're paying a premium for it. And I think it's difficult to be an informed consumer of innovative technology. It's difficult to know what's going to still be valuable in 5 years, what the shelf life's going to be, whether it's going to require, whether it's going to work with other technology, whether you're getting down it, you're buying into something that you're going to have to keep re-upping. You're going to continue to have to make the investment in a particular standard or in a particular framework. And so I don't want to suggest that I'm anti-technology, but that was one of the things that popped out. It's just scary. I think I'm wary of embracing technology for technology's sake, and I'm wary of taking an ad hoc approach to purchasing technology, investing in technology. I think, as long as the district has a framework for evaluating this and is an informed consumer, I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Question 8, are you aware that the district is striving to be a full-service community school, and what does it mean to you?
Well, I was not aware of this term, but I've since Googled it, so I was aware of ECCL and the goals of ECCL. And from what I know about ECCL, I suspect that this is a big part of the effort. I think the full-service community school philosophy is a fantastic philosophy. Going back to my answer on the first question, I understand how important it is to make sure that students' basic needs are met. As a public student growing up, if there was health care at my school, I certainly would have taken advantage of it. I think it's great. I think you can't teach students unless all their needs are met. And I think it's a really brave thing, and I think it's a very kind of bold thing, and I'm proud of Emeryville for taking steps to it. I don't know the entire ECCL story, and I don't know if any of us do. I mean, my understanding is that a lot of the people who put this sort of framework in place are now gone, but I do want to learn more about it, and I'm really kind of interested in digging into the history and finding out more about what the goals of this place are and what people expected to ECCL to be. It's interesting. It's kind of almost like this Egyptian pyramid or something. It's something that has this history, and it's pretty impressive, but it's not clear just from walking around. So I'm eager to learn more about it.
Alrighty, last question. What is your commitment to Emory Unified School District continuing in its current form, and why or why not is this important?
Well, this is a very interestingly worded question. In my profession, if this question was asked in a deposition, we'd object to it. It assumes facts, not in evidence. It's a little like asking, what's your second favorite recipe for tiramisu? I've looked over the district's 4 goals, and I don't see anything about a commitment to maintaining the district in a particular form. And I think it would be a little odd if there was some sort of, if that was one of the goals. I can say with confidence that I'm 100% committed to a strong, healthy, vibrant public school system in Emeryville. I'm frankly terrified of some of the comments attributed to the proposed incoming Secretary of Education regarding school vouchers. I have real concerns about the growth of charter schools in California. Whatever your feelings are on charter schools, I think it's beyond debate that they negatively affect the amount of money that public schools get. And there's only a certain amount in the pot. But I don't think that's why this question was asked. I think this question was asked because I think that some of the people in the community, including parents of students in the district, have suggested some major changes to the district, including perhaps taking steps to merge the district with another district. And I see why this idea is attractive to people. Berkeley has a great reputation. It's a good brand, and it could help us get over this marketing problem that I've discussed. But I think there are far less radical ways to solve a marketing problem than something like this. I don't think we should make a change like this, a major change like that, unless there are really good reasons for it, and unless we really consider the downsides. And there are significant downsides. For one, it would take time and effort and possibly money that we could be investing in our students. And it would mean getting rid of a real hyper-local government here. A district that is dedicated to serving fewer than 1,000 students. I mean, that kind of local oversight and accountability is something that so many people want and don't have. Going back to my experience in EUSD, that's a district with 600 schools. I'm sure that my teachers and the staff at my schools would have loved to be part of a smaller district where it could be managed at a more local level. So I don't have enough information to have an opinion one way or another, but I have a healthy amount of skepticism. I do think that if there's public interest in such a strategy, I think we'd owe it to the students and the parents of the district to investigate these alternatives and get a better sense of what their benefits are, but what their drawbacks are, and make an informed decision from there.
I'll give you the same clarification, because you're right, the question, as we did the last examinee, it was also the question was trying to get at, in addition to the issues you addressed, the K-12 aspect of the district, its current form as a K-12 district.
Oh, you mean unified as in not a separate...
Say not a K-8 or K-5 or K-3 or...
So the fact that we're all here at ECCL at one particular...
And that it goes through high school.
Well...
We don't get rid of the high school or other grades.
Well, there's got to be a public high school option in Emeryville. I mean, I think that's beyond, in my view, that's beyond debate. If you're just talking about having it on the same one campus, one sort of structure for both?
No, it's not legally required. Piedmont, I think, well, that's not a good example.
They're K-12.
There are K-8 districts that exist in the state.
I don't think I'd be in favor of that. But I think the important thing is that the students in the district have a good public education option. And I guess I haven't really thought about how that would even work, but I guess I have some skepticism as to how that would work, or what the benefits of that would be.
Excuse me, we have about 3 minutes left.
Okay. And that, so you have 3 minutes left to cover any of the, supplement any of the questions or final statement.
Well, I didn't prepare a final statement, so I'm just going to thank you for your time. I thank you for your service. I know that a lot of you guys have put in a lot of time, your own personal time, and thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right, I'll get the next person.
Can we turn on some
Second favorite recipe for tiramisu, is that a legal